Welcome to the Becoming Baby Ready podcast, your podcast for queer family planning. My name is Sam, and throughout this podcast, you'll hear me have conversations with professionals who work alongside people who want to start and grow their families, as well as parents of intentionally created families. Everyone I speak to identifies as being part of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. This is your opportunity to learn answers to questions you didn't even know you had. If you've ever considered using surrogacy as a pathway to create your family, then you do not want to miss today's episode. I'm chatting with Eddy, and Eddy is in Taiwan. Eddy and his husband used a surrogate in Oregon to start their beautiful family. Welcome, everyone. I am so excited today to be sitting here speaking with Eddy and hearing about Eddy's journey to parenthood. So, welcome, Eddy. Tell us about the members of your family, and perhaps for those listening, let us know where you are in this world, because I'm just outside of Toronto, Canada, but you are nowhere near where I am.
Well, I'm born and raised in Taiwan. I have been living in this island country for like the past 8 years now. So right now, our little family, we have two dads to our son Lucas. We was just born since November 7th last year. So he just turned like 4 months old today. So very happy that we finally have like our first son added to our family, and we can wait to see like what kind of adventures that's waiting ahead for the three of us.
For sure, for sure. So, being part of the queer community, there are all kinds of
Yes.
different ways that we can create our families, and we get to be a little bit experimental and we can find which path
Yes.
works best for us. Could you tell me, please, what was the path that you and your family chose to take?
So we chose to go through surrogacy. So for Asian culture, like a lot of us like doesn't really know like what surrogacy is. We didn't know like the concept of surrogacy when they're trying to explain the whole thing to my parents. It's felt like I'm talking to them in like a foreign language. So it has been like a really challenging thing to explain like the concept of surrogacy to especially the last generations, like from my dad's and mom's here. But like I think like the world is like much easier, and especially for like people in my age, they are more like accepting, like there are different types of family. So I think like at least for our generation, people are usually more tolerating. It's like it's relatively easy to find like the people who will be supporting for you, rooting for you. So like even though like when you like don't know who to turn to when you are like trying to find information here and there, like comparing to like my parents' age, like right now it's definitely more accessible to get like informations. Like it's definitely easier to like talk to people from like other country. So I think like things can be a lot easier, but still like having that open dialogue and communications with like your family, like people who like live the closest to you, I think those are still like key, like no matter what kind of like family that you end up choosing to have.
Mhm. I think that's very true. You can't speak necessarily for all of Asia, but you certainly live closer to it and can understand it better than I can from where I'm sitting. Is Is it, because I know that some of the people I've spoken to in the past, surrogacy is illegal where they are. So is surrogacy legal where you are? Is it legal in many parts of Asia? Like, are there hoops you had to jump through simply because of where you lived geographically?
So even though Taiwan happened to be one of the very first Asian country who legalized same-sex marriage, like unfortunately, surrogacy, especially for LGBTQ plus family, is still not illegal in Taiwan at the moment. There has been discussions and people trying to move things forward, but I think it'll probably take like another like few years here and there, but at least it has been discussed. Like we do see like more people trying to like seek the opportunity to go through surrogacy elsewhere. A lot of the people who are currently in the community definitely choose to coming over to the States to have their baby and bringing it back to Taiwan. So we do have like more and more people who starting their family through surrogacy, especially within the LGBTQ plus community. So I think that that's at least a good things that you have that people who have gone through the same journey as you are. So you kind of have that network here in Taiwan, which I believe like in like a couple of years from now, it will definitely become a larger voice within the community and we'll be able to kind of see how we can turn things over or maybe like change things, hoping it goes toward the better directions in the future.
For sure.
Hmm.
That's that's a huge thing to take into consideration, though, if it's not legal, because my next question for you is, given that we can't achieve family or create a family without incurring some costs, there's going to be
Yes.
a cost. Now you also have the added pressure of having to do it outside of your own country, which means that the costs are not just for the surrogacy, it's for travel arrangements, probably
Yes.
lengthy stays, because most of the time if you birth outside of your own country, you have to stay until that child's papers are finished so that you can get that legal process, also something you have to pay for, set to bring the
Yes.
child home and then go through all of the paperwork once you get home. So
Mm.
all of that being said, and I will get to cost in a moment because I do want to find out, sort of what kinds of costs you were faced with, but
Uh-huh.
can you get any kind of financial support from a bank or from an organization in Taiwan to help if surrogacy is illegal?
No, not at all. So that is definitely one of the biggest blocker and obstacle for the people who wanted to step on this journey within the LGBTQ plus community. I think finance is definitely one of the biggest issue and language barrier is a huge deal for
For
a lot
sure.
of people who are considered surrogacy because uh, there are a lot of like conversation that you need to have. You need to start having conversation with like agency. You need to talk to people from IVF. A lot of them will be talking to you in like medical terms, and you'll be speaking to lawyers trying to draft you like contract from here and there. So there will be many layers of communication. So language is definitely one of the things that usually scare people off easily. And the
Mhm.
second is like you just mentioned, like finance is definitely one of the I would say the second pressing issues for a lot of people who are consider starting their own families through surrogacy.
Did you use an agency or did you do piecemeal work? Like you found an egg donor and then you found a surrogate and then like how did you go about it? I would assume from traveling such a distance and trying to do this internationally is probably easiest to go through an agency because they do the sort of thinking for you, first this, then this.
We end up working with an agency as well. Part of the reason is that we are so unfamiliar with the whole process. So having someone who kind of like know the whole process and will be able to guide us through like every step of the way has been like really helpful for us as well. The agency that we happen to work with, they are all surrogate who had the same experience as well. So they can really relate to us and offer us like some advice and suggestions, even through like the smaller things that we got worried about, like whether if the surrogates that we are working with not having enough like nutrition, not having like not eating healthy, like those tiny things, they will be there to kind of like ease your mind a little bit and tell you like what are the things like the tiny little details that you will be facing throughout the process. So that's kind of like why we choose to kind of like work with an agency to start with.
Mhm. So, so tell me about your journey then. You decided we're ready, we're going to have a family. What happened next? I mean, that was the easy decision, right? It was everything
Yeah.
else that was hard.
Our story is like wildly crazy. We actually started a whole thing back in 2019, so it was a while back. And the starting point, which really make us determine our mind of wanted to go on with this, as through MHB. It's a convention, and they happened to have that convention in Taiwan. So it was a really good opportunity for us to get in touch with like lawyer people from IVF, from like different agencies. So it's a convention that really get us a lot of useful information and to really kind of like jumpstart on a lot of different things like research that really have been saving us a lot of time. And since then, we have been waiting to pair with a surrogate for like a year time. But when we actually pair up with someone, she was from Hawaii, so we have a sort of conversation, figure everything out, and when we're about to sign the surrogate contract with her, she told us the other day that her marriage hasn't been really working out for her, so she has filed for a divorce. So it's kind of like we were so close to signing a contract and the whole thing just fell through. But we are kind of like glad that she told us like she was like being very transparent about all this because she also has her child back then at the same time. So if she has decided to sign a contract and still take on um, the whole thing to go through the journey with us, it would be overwhelming on her side as well. So even though we were kind of like disappointed back then, but we also glad that she was like pretty transparent and told us about it. And after that, we waited for like almost 2 years time because of COVID. So the whole was shut down. It was nearly impossible to find a new surrogate to work with. But I think the wait is kind of like really worthwhile. So we end up working with this amazing surrogate who lives in Portland, Oregon. Her name is Jennifer. So she already had her two children and she's just finished up for her previous cycle. So ours is actually her fourth child. So we ended up really liking each other's. We were kind of like having conversations on our own WhatsApp group here and there. So that's kind of like our whole thing, like finally getting started. Like things has been working really well with us. Like we actually went over there one time to be there with her for one of the regular checkup. So it has been like really working really well for us till like I would say the 30th week, and she was diagnosed with, I would say it was preeclampsia.
Preeclampsia, yeah.
Yes. So her pressures were like soaring like
Mm.
really high, and she has to be stay in the hospital, being hospitalized till we were being told that she need to at least stay till like the 32 weeks. And we were looking at like maybe she need to deliver the baby much, much earlier than the original expecting date, which is supposed to be January 5th this year.
Wow.
And after she told us that, like we were like super worried because we never know like what clemencia was. We know nothing about it. We don't know like if it's going to be fatal, like if it's going to be jeopardizing her family or whatnot. So we were having like crazy thoughts, like we can't really sleep for like 2 weeks time.
Hmm.
And I think it was till the so she has been hospitalized since the 30th week. And till the fifth days entering into the 31st week, she messaged us one day that she started to have contractions. And it happened to be like midnight, our time. So that was like the craziest things ever that like we were already under the pressures that like she might need to stay till the hospital till the 32nd week.
Hmm.
And but like right now it's not even 32nd week and she started to have contractions. So
Mm.
we were like we cannot really sleep at all at that night. But like when we got up like I believe it was like 5 a.m. our time. And we already got the message from her through WhatsApp that she already delivered the baby. Like it just magically happened. And we were like,
Wow.
come on, like the whole thing just kind of like happened within the 5 hours time when we were asleep. But like luckily, like she's healthy, or some Lucas has been healthy. Like even though he has been born prematurely, he is still like strong and healthy.
Hmm.
But right now, we just kind of like need to abandon whatever we had planned. I booked the tickets on the same day. I flew out to the States within like 24 hours after the baby was born. So the whole thing was kind of like the craziest roller coaster ride ever. But for us, like being there, like even though we missed out the whole delivery process, like being there to kind of like see our son for the very first time has been a really rewarding experiences. Like, like he is definitely like our precious baby, and that feeling and experience is definitely something that you cannot describe it in words for sure.
No, not at all. Not at all. And you said he's healthy now. I assume born that early, he probably had to spend time in the NICU. Is that
NICU
correct?
for sure. Yeah, he has been staying in NICU for like 24 days since he was born.
And then he was able to breathe on his own and do things for himself. And did you get to still have lots of skin to skin time with him and things like that at the hospital? Did they encourage you to come in and hold him lots and snuggle with him and let him hear your voices and stuff?
Exactly. I kind of like abandoned a lot of things from my side. So I pretty much stayed at the hospital like 10 to sometimes even like 14 hours per day. And I spend as much time to do skin to skin with Lucas as much as possible, at
Mhm.
least for the first 2 weeks time before my husband got to the States.
Hold on for just a moment. We'll be right back. It's Sam from babyREADY. If you have been listening to this podcast, then you know that the focus is to help you find answers to questions you didn't even know you had. And now you get to do it in person. On Saturday, June 8th at the 519 in Toronto on Church Street, I am hosting an in-person event where you get to come and listen to different people speak about the work that they do to help members of the queer community start or grow their families through parenthood. For more information, visit my website, www.babyready.info. Oh, and I didn't even think of this. I guess I just assumed that both of you jumped on a plane within 24 hours. So your husband stayed in
No, just
Taiwan.
one of us. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that must have been so hard for him to be like hours and hours away, a whole ocean
Yeah.
away from you and your son, and
Yeah.
really just having to rely on.
FaceTime. We were like FaceTiming, yeah, yeah, couple like I would say like up to 1 hour per day. So at least he has that opportunity to see like how he is recovering, how he is like becoming more healthy and bigger every single day.
That would ease his worries a little bit. I mean, until he could actually get there. And then once he got there, you just shared out everything. So he could spend some time skin to skin and you could get some sleep. And yeah, oh my gosh. So Lucas was born November 7th, you said?
Yes.
And how long? I mean, he was in the NICU for 24 days, so obviously you have to stay for at least those 24 days. How long after he was born did you were you able to take him back and home to Taiwan?
We stay all the way till the mid of January, then we fly back to Taiwan. So we pretty much stay in the States for like 2.5 months. Yeah.
What kind of paperwork and things do you need to do in the US to be able to get the baby
Oh my
into Taiwan?
It's like you're racing with time because we were there like it happened to be the holiday season, so
Right.
things are kind of like getting even crazier during that time. But we need to get his like passport, we need to get his like social security, we need to make sure that all the required documents are being notarized, are being translated back into Chinese. So when he's like flying back to Taiwan, like Taiwan government will already have his records and whatnot. So it was a really huge challenge because we need to take care of him, but we also need to find time to look into how to get all of his documents, and it was like definitely racing with the time at the same time. Yeah.
For sure, for sure.
Mm.
Are there any words of caution that you would offer members of the 2S LGBTQIA plus community about any of the journey that you've been on, or any of the things that came up for you that you think, gee, I wish that someone before we did this had told us about this? Not because it would have stopped you necessarily, but at least
Yeah.
you would have known what to take into consideration.
I would say definitely try to network with people who had gone through the journey as well. Like in Taiwan, we do have a really I would not say small, but a really close connected community. We have a group chat with all the dads or like all the LGBTQIA plus members who have gone through surrogacy. Either it's like they had already gone through or like people who are looking into it. So it's a small community where people can share their thoughts, can share like some reminders that people even like design a list of items that you probably need to consider bringing to the States. So a lot of like knowledge and information are being shared in there, especially for those like documentations, like how do you apply for it? Like those things are changing from time to time. So having people sharing their knowledge and like sometimes even just being there to listen to you has been really helpful. Like especially during the first few weeks when Lucas was in NICU, like besides speaking to my husband, like speaking to other people, like who has been there like rooting for you, helping you to kind of like hearing like what your thoughts and concerns are like has been really like helpful at the same time as well. So I would say like find your people, find your supporter, and having regular conversation with them has been definitely helping you to go through like any potential like obstacles or blocker throughout the whole journey.
Hmm. Hmm. And you said that it was the MHB Men Having Babies convention that you went to. I would assume in a location like that, you'd have the opportunity also to meet other people sort of with the same thought process you had going into the whole
Yes,
journey, right?
exactly. Taiwan also has a few NGOs. Like there's one that is the LGBTQ family right advocacy. So there are also NGO here in Taiwan. Like they even organize like nursing classes to help the people who are already going through the journey. Like I took one of the courses and they were teaching us how to change diaper, how do you bathe the baby. And yeah, normally like even though hospital has all those like nursing courses as well, but as a same-sex couple, like you might like worry that like going into those situations where you are like spending time with like people who are just like men and women will be kind of like they might be treating us differently. But like having those courses like will give you an opportunity to network with other family and will be able to kind of like giving you a more safer space to ask like also the silly questions. So I
Mhm.
would say that that's been helpful as well.
You need that. You need to have a safe space to
Yeah.
ask questions that may be silly to some people, but you don't know the answer, so you're asking the question.
Yeah, we even see people asking questions like, what is the proper temperature that we need to set in order to have a healthy environment for the child? Like we have like none of this experience in the past, so like it's kind of like it comes as a natural for us to ask all those like silly questions. We like I think like having a baby for a lot of the same-sex family, uh, because there's like they choose to want to go on this path. So a lot of them are really devoting a lot of their time, resources. They wanted the best for their children. So yeah, like it might be a silly question, but it all comes like out of love. I would
Mm,
say that.
100%, 100%. And I think that it's important to say that Yes, we create our families and we have to work extra hard to get our families, but that doesn't mean that having the family is easy. And there are still days that probably make you want to just pull your hair out in chunks sometimes because you're exhausted or you're frustrated or you're whatever, right?
Yeah, for same-sex family, because both of the parents are like fully devoted of having this baby. So as I would say it's fairly easy for us to share the burden, to share the works because
Mhm.
we have like both people who like really wanted to have this baby at the same time.
That's very true. That's very true. And I was going to say, in all the years that I've been teaching classes, and I've taught classes to hopeful and expectant parents for 25, more than 25 years, one common question that I get that people think is a silly question, but I get asked all the time is what temperature should we set the house to so that that baby is in a healthy environment? So it seems silly from the person asking because how do we not know this? But everybody wants to know it. So there you go.
Exactly. That's very true.
It's so true. You went through the journey across international borders, worrying on one side of the ocean, having somebody going through the journey with you and for you on the other side of the ocean. And then you get to the US and you've got this beautiful baby who's in the NICU and you're needing to be in the hospital and in a hotel and in unusual environments. And you're sharing your story, I presume, because people are saying, "Oh, what are you here for?" And you're like, "Oh, we just had a baby and baby's in the hospital and all this other stuff." Were there times throughout all of this process that you were made to feel like you were the other, that it wasn't okay that you were there to have a baby, you and your husband, that you were doing this from another like what kinds of obstacles did you have to overcome from that perspective?
I think the huge part is when we were considered starting on the journey, we definitely had a lot of like questions being asked, like even from some of our closest friends, like from family members. They were just like questions that like, um, why do you even wanted to have children? Like, have you really trying to change perspective and trying to thinking from the children's perspective that like if he goes out to schools, like he get questions that like why do you have two dads? Where's your mom? Like those are kind of like questions that we were being asked constantly.
Mhm.
And I think it definitely takes time and effort to not like educate people, but like definitely that the the people surround you to know that like sometimes I think like the love is the most important thing to start a family. And even though like he might get all this question in the future, like at least he still got like two of the family's members that love him the most. I think that's the most important things. And I think that having that network of people who come through the same journey, that he will be able to interact with other kids who either has two dads or like two moms. And I think it will be easier for him to understand or to share that experiences or to kind of like connect with people like other children at his own age to see like what it's like and to make friends and to kind of like share the feelings that he might get from school. Like you won't be able to kind of like change how people think of your children, think of your family. There's no way. Like there are always going to be people who are being out there and trying to judge you. And there are definitely times that you really can't do anything about it. But as long as that you have that feeling and show your chooses that like you have like all the love that he needs to get from the two of you. I think that's the things that going to get you throughout like all the darkest hour. So we definitely get all those questions being asked before we're starting the journey, but throughout the time when people see that we were serious about this.
Mhm.
We put a lot of time and efforts research into this. So they started to kind of like change it a little bit. And we also kind of like introduce other intended parents to our family members so they would see that we were not like old monster or whatnot. Sometimes I felt that it's kind of like coming out 2.0 for us that we need
Yep.
to kind of like explain the whole thing even to our family member or our moms and dads. So yeah, it's definitely a huge challenge, but I think it's a rewarding thing that we end up like having all of our parents really loving Lucas, and I think that's the best thing ever. They were having all sorts of like doubts and like concerns at the beginning, but when they see Lucas for the first time, they still cannot really help just wanted to hold him tight in their arms. So
Fair.
I think they really changed like everything.
And on some levels, you can almost understand where the questions come from because that's sort of related to their experience growing up. And even,
Yes.
I think then I look at my children who are in their 20s and my stepdaughter who's in her late teens. And I think their generation is just going to be that much more familiar with the whole concept. So it's not going to seem unusual to them. It's just going to be normal.
Yeah. Especially for my parents' generations, there were not a lot of like this informations. They didn't know what LGBTQIA plus is. They didn't know there's such things called surrogacy. They didn't know you can like literally fly across the oceans to go through surrogacy to start your family there. So there were not a lot of options back then, but yeah, definitely take time for them to catch up. But I think the love they have for Lucas is still there, and it's not going to be anything less.
Excellent. Excellent. As we wrap up, can you tell me what so far on your immense parenting journey, because even though it may have been a short period of time, you have had a lot of life experience happen in that short period of time. What is your very, very favorite part of parenting so far?
I think the favorite part is that buying all sorts of like clothing and just kind of like yeah, that's kind of like the most interesting part and just kind of like trying to picture what our lives is going to be like when he grows older.
Mhm.
And that's kind of like the most precious memory ever. Like we already spent this month of like time, efforts, and money and welcomed him to the world. And he has been going through definitely some challenges throughout like NICU, staying on the flight for like 12 hours, flying back to Taiwan, and having all the people surrounding him, like loving him. I'll definitely say those are the most precious memory that we have so far.
Mhm.
Like just having the thought of like trying to see like what kind of things that we can do together when he grows older are some of the things that like when we are like exhausted at night, like those are some of the things that can really keep us up and like working and like changing diaper for him or like making formula milk for him or whatnot. Yeah. So I think just the thought of like what all the possibility will be like having these children and having the ideas of like he has all the people loving him, surrounding around him, and he has all the children at his own age and will be able to kind of be friendly with him. Those are the most precious things ever.
Yeah, that sounds pretty spot on to me. That's pretty amazing. I
Yeah.
want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me now, and I will let you get to bed because it is very late where you are.
It's okay. Thank you for having me thus far.
Thank you for joining me today on the Becoming Baby Ready podcast. If you have a story that you'd like to share, or you know someone who might, if you're a professional who works in the capacity of helping people start and grow their families, and you identify as being a part of the 2S LGBTQIA plus community yourself, then please don't hesitate to reach out. We always have room for more stories to share, and there's always more learning to do.